and welcome to another episode of Ungimmicked. Yes, I think this is episode 5. We filled up a whole hand.
For the five of us.
For the 5 of us.
The 5 fingers of the fist. That was awkward.
Alex, you sound ready. You sound ready for this conversation.
That sounded a lot worse than what I thought.
Gentlemen, of course I need to introduce you, say all of your beautiful names, because Ungimmicked today is complete. We have our full crew. We have Alex Moreau, Connor McDonald, Matthew O'Neill, and Sanjeev Vinod. Of course, my name is Gonçalo Souza, and it's a pleasure to be here, as always. And we're going to get started with our 1-minute recommendation this week, presented by Connor.
Aha, yes. Today I'm going to be recommending a book. It's titled Magic and Showmanship by Henning Nelms. I think that no matter where you are on the professional level, amateur, novice, this book has everything in it. And no matter what, you will learn something. In here, there's talks about ideas that I never thought of before. I highly recommend it. That's it. Just go find it yourself. You can get it on, I think, is it called Dover? Yeah, they sell it on Dover. And I recommend it. Go read it.
Great.
Really quick, something from that book, one of my favorite theories is the ham sandwich theory, where if you're walking with a friend on a road and they ask to see a magic trick and you say, boom, you now have a ham sandwich in your pocket, it's nothing. It's just a moment. It's like your phone, Connor, in the sense that you don't know how it works, but it's just, okay, I guess. It's not magic to me, right?
Call back to a previous episode.
That was a callback to the previous episode. Also, all of our backgrounds haven't changed because we wanted it that way.
It's not because we're
and the
recording
clothing. We just keep the clothing consistent.
We can't afford new clothes.
Patreon.com/ungimmicked.
Back to theory. So, let's say you're walking with that same friend on a road and the friend says, I'm really hungry. I really kind of want a ham sandwich right now. And then you snap. And then a ham sandwich appears in that pocket. Now that's a moment of magic rather than just being a throwaway moment, which I was like, oh, that's a really, really cool way to think about things. Yeah.
The book was revised and it still kept the original price and is being distributed by most magic dealers. You should absolutely get it.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, thank you for that 1-minute recommendation. That it's so that I get the title right in my notes as well. It's Magic and Showmanship?
Yes.
Magic and Showmanship. So definitely give it a look. And with that, we are moving over to our main topic for today. And can you believe it? They let me present one of the topics.
We took a risk, guys. Whoa. It's all about risk taking.
We haven't decided how we feel about it yet.
So if you never get to listen to this, it's because they all hate me.
Those are not correlated.
But today, I wanted to bring to the table a discussion about inspiration and where to draw inspiration from. I've sometimes struggled with that myself, and I keep thinking, and I keep coming back to what has worked in the past. Will it work again? And I try to make those connections, and I try to... And this inspiration could be for different things. It could be an inspiration for a trick, for a method, for a move, for a show, for a story. The inspiration is not... We're using it in the very broad sense, or at least I want to use it in this very broad sense. So, how do we get inspired, or how can we get inspired, and then apply that to our magic? I'm going to start this discussion with Alex.
Yeah, I think it's a great subject, and it's extensively been written about in magic literature, specifically how to create tricks, because sometimes you get that feeling that, oh my god, all the good stuff's already out there, right? But you just realize that there's more good stuff to come when somebody else discovers it for you. And I think most people that I have read talking about this all say the same thing does not work. And I've read only a few people that are able to just say, okay, tonight I'm creating a trick, open a blank page and start writing. Very, 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 very few people can do that. And I do not believe that that's how you should create magic. There's moments of inspiration, and we'll talk about exactly what those are and how to get those and how to make the most out of them. But I think just to be clear with people, you don't just pop in books. Okay, I'm going to create magic right now. I think it's something you should observe and just be aware of everything that's around you to just make sure that you're always in the creative quote unquote mood where you can take anything that's around you in your environment and make the best out of it.
Yeah, it's sort of like one of those things. Opportunity or luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. For example, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Alex, how long is it when we did the sandwich thing?
Oh, wow. I don't know, a week?
Yeah. Time's flying. 10 days ago, we were just jamming a piece, and then completely by accident, we did something, and then our minds were instantly, oh my God, that could be so cool. And that
Right.
was a moment of inspiration because we just were prepared, and we think, oh my God, this works.
And 5 months ago, we were jamming on the same plot. But we're like, let's create a sandwich effect. And we created things with a bunch of phases. You know what? It was good magic, but it wasn't meaningful. And then,
Yeah.
just because now we're just ready and taking into a more loose approach, and we didn't know what we wanted to do, it became amazing.
It's counterintuitive. It's like a Chinese finger trap. You know, the more you pull on it, the less you'll come out of it. It's really, oh, what was the quote? Well, there's a quote that is amazing, and I have it. It's, somebody say something, and I'm going to say the quote right after. Let me think.
Well, I'll just kind of pop in then. I think what I'm really curious to know is what each, before we get into this whole discussion about it, I want to know what each one of you individually do to become inspired. And what do you guys do to create magic?
I live life.
Interesting.
No,
Well,
Thank
that's
you, Alex, for
honestly,
that
that's so great.
abstract,
And-
useless response. Yeah.
no, and honestly, okay, let me expand on it. But essentially, it comes down to that. Because, first of all, you get inspired by all the magic you see. And I think I love just getting the most out of magic. I read books all the time, I watch lectures all the time, I jam with people all the time. I want to get the most out of that. I get a lot out of other things in magic. Personally, for me, it's music. Music always does the thing. But everything I see, everything I talk about, fun facts, quotes, I love those. They carry so much meaning. But then, for me, the moment that really, where I make the most out of that is always the same. Those usually happen during the day, but I don't instantly make tricks out of them, or moments, or stories. But there's one where it always happens. In my bed, right before I go to sleep. Turn off all the lights, go into bed. I usually take a little bit of time to fall asleep. That time, I have so many eureka moments, where just, boom, turn all the lights on, grab something, and just write down everything. Because now there's nothing to worry about. Don't even worry about cooking, texting, nothing. You're just there with your thoughts,
Nice.
and suddenly you put things into perspective like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is so deep. I found solutions to competition acts. I found so many things in that very moment.
And I found the quote. All right. But the thing is, it's perfect because the quote is, you stop. Damn it. No. You can only find the moment you stop looking, the moment you stop seeking. And it was crazy because I was thinking so hard and then I gave up like, oh, I'm never going to remember it. And the moment that happened, I remembered it. Right? And it's exactly like Alex was saying. I'm not going to bed thinking, oh, I'm going to come up with 3 phases. I'm going to come up with the final 89 phases of my ambitious card routine. No, it just happens.
Yeah, because obviously before going to sleep, you sort of process everything that happened during the day passively. And I'm going, oh, let me try and put something together. Sort of, oh, today there was, I love my lunch. It was a great little spice. And you're like, oh, wait a second, that little touch. And suddenly things just come together, right?
Yeah.
Alex, when you said live life, that it makes complete sense because when you think about like improv groups, right?
Mhm.
They don't spend time together. They don't, outside of improv, they do not hang out, right? Because they're going into the real world, studying people, having their own experiences, and then all collectively as a team, they bring that into the craft, right? So they, based off of their own experiences, they just go and live life, and then when it comes down to improv, they draw from those experiences.
Okay, so if I don't come holidays with you guys, that's just because creative inspiration.
You know what? That's just saving us a lot of headache.
That is true. I'll give you that.
Okay, different stance. I think the general trend so far has been, okay, it's a passive process. You almost wait for inspiration and then you capitalize on it when it happens. I think there's a slightly different framework that has definitely resonated with me a lot more, which is that creativity is like a muscle. Creativity is like a
Gotta be
muscle. It
trained.
is something you exercise.
Yeah.
And some of my wackiest ideas, I think Gonzalo and Alex can attest. I have started doing this thing. It was recommended to me by someone named Austin Janik. Great guy, great guy.
Love that
And
man.
he told me a long time ago to every single day set aside 3 minutes of my time. 3 minutes of my time, okay? Start a timer, stick to that 3 minutes. Once that timer starts, I write down every single possible magic idea that pops into my head. It doesn't matter if it sounds bad, if it's whack, if it's impossible. None of these questions should be popping into your head. Every single idea that comes up. And some of the absolute most fulfilling things I'm most proud of, come from there. Like, oh, what if you could do Control Z like on a computer, but in real life, right? It's like, what? That's what? It's a very weird idea, right? In general, all these things, I just don't. I don't live by the wait for inspiration mindset, because I think it's just not feasible, especially when this is when you turn this art, craft, whatever you call it, into a career, when you become professional with it. I don't think you can sit around waiting for inspiration. And I
But
think
you're not waiting
it
for
also
Well, it's a
has
combination. You're always ready for it. You're always
I
ready
think
for
you're
inspiration.
creating it. I think you're creating the inspiration. I'm very intentionally using an active verb for it rather than passive. You're setting aside those 3 minutes every day, and sure, you might start with absolute trash ideas, but eventually in those 3 minutes, when you sit down with a blank piece of paper saying, I am going to make ideas now, you will start making ideas.
So are you only creative for 3 minutes of your day?
No.
I am
Yeah.
only intentionally setting aside time to be creative for 3 minutes of my day.
But what's the proportion of your ideas that come from that 3 minutes versus the proportion of those times you get inspired just with life?
It doesn't matter though, right? Because if good ideas come out of it anyway, that means it was useful, because we're just chasing the best ideas.
Exactly, and there's
Right,
a
that's-
bias
that's
there,
what we're
because
about.
obviously he's now pumping a lot of his creativity and life in general into those 3 minutes.
That's true.
Let me give probably the best tip ever in creativity. So you take your phone, and here you just have a little icon here that's called Notes. You click on it, and as you can tell, I have a whole f***ing bunch of notes.
Dude,
And
Notes are
now
life.
you have to have multiple. One of them, every time you find something that triggers any emotion that you're like, oh wow, this is cool, interesting, amazing, dividing, polarizing, anything, you write it in there. A recipe, a taste, a quote, a conversation, a visual thing. You walk and you find a building whack. Take a picture, put it in your notes, say this building is whack.
Yeah.
And once in a while, I do backups on my Google Drive, and I will just go through all the ideas. And when sometimes I have just a cool trick, it's on like a deep piece. I just want to do a cool trick and see if there's a cool idea I can put just to be a little thought provoking. I have to go through all those ideas, and I always find something worth saying.
And sometimes when you have some just those creative moods where for like 2 hours you just are thinking of ideas. Writing it down physically is a lot of fun. Personally, Alex has to really push me to take notes on computers because I only use notebooks and I have to put it on Google Drive so everybody can understand my thoughts
Yeah, thing is,
and to compile them.
the thing is, notebooks
They
are
both have their
amazing.
purposes.
I always start with notebooks, just so most of my ideas are there. When I'm actually like actively doing stuff, but if they say notebooks, the odds of you rereading them are pretty slim. Truthfully, so once in a while, just go through a note and see how much of them you can translate and are still on the vibe with, and write those down in your Google Drive. And just the act of really thinking about them, writing them actively, you have a new perspective. Thoughts might arise from that. There's so much good to have.
It's like when you're reading, somebody else's essay, and if it's your own essay, you can't point out all the mistakes. But when you read somebody else's essay, it's sort of more clearly. That's why collaboration is always so important. With that, you're sort of collaborating with yourself. If you give it a little bit of time, then you can return to those
Interesting.
ideas, and then you can see it like, oh, why didn't I think of this? This is cool. This makes so much sense.
So collaborating with past you, with future you.
Exactly.
It's collaborating,
Yeah.
collaborating with
Magic
your,
with time.
subconscious.
That's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, we didn't
But
even
it's your
talk about that.
subconscious
But you
that
can
works
definitely
it.
be inspired by just sharing those things.
Life.
Because the way sometimes, and it's happened so many times. Remember, somebody has a cool line or a cool script, or even as like a subject for one of these podcasts. Say, oh guys, we should talk about this. and someone would go, "Oh yeah, this is amazing because we can see it in that regard." And the original guy that said this, like, "Wow, I did not think of that. It's a better way. It's a better way than what I thought. It takes more things." So even saying the exact same thing, getting it out, bouncing ideas and stupid ideas and good ideas and things against walls that are other people, they'll bounce back. Some of them will bounce back way off target. Some will hit the nail in the head.
One big recommendation that I can give is don't pass up the opportunity to write it down.
Yeah, for
No,
sure.
I'm like Matthew. I have a tiny notebook. It's the best purchase I've ever made, and I keep making them when I fill them, and it's just with me. I put my shopping lists there, my magic ideas, or my
Magic shopping
journaling
lists?
and rants. No, anything that I want. That notebook is always with me. So where I've come to many moments where I know that I've had an idea and I didn't get to write it down for XYZ, and now I've lost it. So whether you use your phone, whether you use a notebook, a physical notebook, whatever you use, voice memos, if that's your thing, do make some recording of your ideas so you can come back to them later and share them with other people.
Nice. And I want to pivot a little bit here. I think we're all unanimous on the write your stuff down because that's, I think, along the lines of making the most of that inspiration when it hits. I think more on places to look. There's two I want to bring up. One is other art, whether it's paintings, whether it's music, whether it's dance. I think there's a lot to be inspired by in other forms of art because they're doing very similar thinking to us in the sense of what do I want to convey, how do I want to convey it. They're just choosing a different medium to express it in, and I think there's always cool stuff to look at in there. I think Banksy is incredible. Things like that. And another place I think that's been really fruitful for me that I want to get your guys' thoughts on is personal life. It's something that's really big with Jerry Seinfeld, for example, where you just examine yourself, right? For example, for me, okay, you guys know in this podcast, I've literally introduced myself as I'm Indian, right? It's just something I'm really
So
grateful
brilliant.
for. It's something I'm incredibly proud of. And when I look there, I think now the piece I'm working on has to do with ancient Indian scripture, right? And that's not something that I could find reading someone else's magic book, watching someone else's magic video. But when you look inward, when you examine within yourself, you find things just like Matt with your poem. I like this. How do I take this thing that I like and then share it with other people? And I think that's another good, really great place to look for inspiration as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what the assembly piece at the end of our podcast is for. I mean, definitely besides the last one where I like recommended meditation, but like in my opinion, when I'm trying to think of what I want to recommend there, it's something to think outside of magic to think about, or totally butchered that. It's for you to exercise your brain and say, oh, that's a very interesting piece of music. That's a very interesting poem. Like I definitely should think about this and hopefully gain inspiration from it.
Yeah, I agree. Your personal life is definitely subject, and you should probably look back of what you're proud of and ashamed of.
Ooh, ashamed of is good. Yeah.
Ashamed of is,
Ashamed of, yeah.
I think, arguably better than proud of.
And there's honestly, this is a little, it's not political, but it's like social. There's a lot of people who really don't want shame in any sort of way, but that's one of the biggest motivators to improve.
Yeah, don't bury your shame. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
get it out there necessarily. Everyone has their way of coping with it. And one thing is, a lot of people, when I tell them my personal life story, one of the things they usually go is, oh, wow, how hard was it to travel all the time? Like, you need to make new friends. And I realized that was never a concern for me. I was always super happy, and I think I'm infinitely grateful to, especially my parents, but for how lucky I've been to follow that path in life. And so now I'm like, oh wow, okay. I have traveled like this. People think now that it's hard to make friends. Let me give my take on that, and suddenly I can make something out of that. I can explain something that's a viewpoint and that's very personal to me. Where'd you come from? What's your first name? By the way, here obviously I go by Alex most of the time, but in every formal performance you'll see me do, I always introduce myself as Alexandre, because it says so much. It says that I'm French. It says I'm Alexander or Alex, anything. I'm very proud of my name. That's who I am. It doesn't, you don't need to be proud of your name, but your name is part of you. Take inspiration from it. Where does it come from? Why was it given to you? Is it the name of your grandfather? Favorite name of your mother? Great. What are you wearing? What are you doing? What do you do on your spare time? What sports do you like? All of those things are infinite
Nice.
source for inspiration.
Off of that, before we transition to our halfway point, really quick, along the lines of self-reflection, I think one thing that's a really cool idea that I've heard from one of my friends named Abhinav is called a rejection resume, where you make a resume of every time you've messed up, everything you failed, everything you've butchered, everything you tried to but didn't get. And looking at that, it's oddly enough, your feeling is not one of shame. It's not one of insecurity. It's this, I think, almost that liberation from just acceptance. Like, oh, wow. all
To
this
me,
on
it
one
feels
sheet
like
of
it would be
paper.
cathartic.
Yeah, maybe
Just pure
so.
catharsis.
And it's learning. You learn from it. This is what I have done. This is what I learned from each of those. And all those experiences mean a lot to you. And just acknowledging that and being aware of that, I think, is another place to look for incredibly personal inspiration, which I think means something to other people as well.
This is the moment that I most hate in the podcast, when I have to end the conversation to go to the break.
Yeah,
And,
one day it's like, one moment it's like life, mystery, music, beauty, and the next is follow us on Instagram, everybody.
It's not my favorite thing. Again, I'm gonna bleep. I think up until now I've only bleeped Alex in post production, but I'm gonna bleep myself because I do feel like a dick whenever I
There you go.
end the conversation.
There you f***ing go.
I do. Like,
Square
kind of just
one.
cut it, but it's
We need
It's
a
part of the
whiteboard,
show.
minutes since Alex swore.
You know, like in the Simpsons trailer,
Like
right?
in the Simpsons,
3
when they
day
change the
Simpson
names.
accident, and he walks away with.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know that you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube, youtube.com/ungimmick. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/ungimmick. But the best way to come in contact with us is at Instagram, @ungimmick. You can also go to patreon.com/ungimmick. I don't know why Sanjeev, why do
it's
people need to
actually-
give us money today?
Yeah, so Matt goes through a box of hair product every day. And,
I don't use any hair product. Look at this luscious.
Yeah, because you ran out, Matt, and we are not about that here. We support, we're kind, we are compassionate and generous individuals at our core. Let it never be said that magicians gain pleasure from other people's pain. That's just not true. We are empowering, and
I
we
love
want
that
money
Matthew
to make up for
just
that.
tried one-upping a public speaker. That was an awful
Matt,
mistake.
I love you. You know this.
I don't use any. That's probably a bad thing in the long run. But
No, your hair is luscious. It's great. Yeah, that is.
It is
a point
very
that needs to be
beautiful.
made.
that's what I contribute to this podcast.
Okay, and
The
you know
hair.
what, Gonzalo? There was something I think we fail to say every plug, so let me add to that plug. Talk
Absolutely.
about us to your buddies. All the people that can make something out of this, hey, share. Throw us around. If one extra person listens to the podcast thanks to you, you're part of the team.
That's facts.
Yeah.
That is a very, very good thing that you just said, Alex. Thank you for adding that. That will now be part of all my unfortunate interventions in this.
Get the-
feels like,
get the
you know,
message
after
out.
the
I mean, like-
post credits when you thank everyone and it's finished by "and you."
And you.
Oh yeah, and you.
That's true. That's good. But the thing is, it's what Alex has said is 100% true, because we love these conversations, and
Yeah.
if you know someone who would enjoy themselves, yeah, just send it over. Maybe they'll like it.
Magician or non-magician.
Exactly. This works
Everybody
for
can learn
everybody.
from these.
And before we take it to our breather crimp with Sanjeev, I just want to do my contractual obligation and say that ungimmick is spelled UNGIMMICKED. That's
You know, one of these
ungimmick.
days,
I'm just gonna one of these days.
one
I'm
of these
just
Gimmick,
days we're
gonna.
gonna spell it wrong on purpose.
And see
no,
who
no, I
catches it.
See you, yeah.
Episode 69.
And we lose like 6 viewers in the process.
They're like, oh, this
Are
is not
only
the
6
quality. I
viewers?
Gonzalo,
subscribed
just to be
for."
clear, if they're listening to this, the title on YouTube, Spotify, or whatever, it shows that exact spelling. So I think you're preaching. You're
To the
preaching
choir.
to people that have already gone through the pain of spelling.
Yeah.
that.
I know it is. Sanjeev made me sign the contract saying that I would always spell this out in every podcast. So it's
yeah.
my one per
that's the only
podcast.
stipulation.
Thank you.
Sanjeev, breather crimp, over to you.
Yes, sir. This time with the breather crimp, I want to bring attention to a couple performances that the first one is one that I looked at and said, wow, this is a lot that I like about magic, which is becoming increasingly rare, not because magic is declining, but because I'm becoming more picky with what I like. And the second is just beautiful. It's just magic that can be described as beautiful is just something that hits differently for me. So I want to pass on both to you guys and our listeners. So the first is a Brian Saint performance on Penn and Teller Fool Us, with the clickbait title of Fooled by a Phone Charger?
Oh yeah,
That was two
great.
question marks
What
at
a-
the end, if you didn't. Yeah.
What a great one.
I loved a lot about it. This man's a voice actor. It's something he does on the side, and he brought that in brilliantly into his performance. And something I'm really picky about is that none of his magic looked like moves. None of it looked like, why is that there? When he was charging a phone charger with a non-existent charger, it was just plug and boom, it just happened. I was like, that's a nice
Yeah.
moment.
Excellent.
And he was playing it as an infomercial, so at no point did I feel, wow, he's tricking me, wow, he's showing off. It was just, wow, this is a really cool side of him that I'm glad he brought out. Second performance is a FISM 2015. This is Kim Young Min. This is in General Magic. He was the
Ooh.
champion, and he works with sand. God.
What a
One of my favorite
gorgeous
shows.
routine.
One of my favorite shows of all time, and it's shared by some people in this group, is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Right? It's just one of those kid
Ooh.
things that
What a
I'm
great
watching
show.
it right now with my brother.
Wait,
right now.
save that for the assembly. Hold on. That's the assembly.
Okay.
Save
So,
it.
This man takes sand and works with it in a way where you just feel like he is bending the elements. It does not feel
He's
like
massaging your
he's
mind.
pouring into thumb tip. It's just what is this is beautiful. This is beautiful. He doesn't speak a word. He takes flowers and breathes life back into it, and you're just like, that is a
The ring.
story being told with a piece of magic, and that's just beautiful to me.
Yeah, and I make your
please,
card
guys.
appear at your chosen number.
Oh yeah, it's better.
I'm
This
just
is
saying
this
'cause
card. This
when
card
you see
is
those
really.
beautiful acts, you sort of question yourself. You're like, okay,
That's true.
now how do I do something that sort of tries to push myself into something a little deeper?
Yeah.
You know what? Since
Yeah.
we're talking about beautiful acts, Teller Shadows.
Oh
Best
yes.
Best
Yeah.
act.
Yes,
Enough
thank
said.
you, Matt. Thank
Enough
you.
said.
Thank you. That was
With
a lot
that-
of breather
yeah,
correct.
that was,
yeah, go ahead, Gonzalo.
Our segments have been great because I think that the more that we do, the more excited we get about them, and we're like, okay, now I got to bring
Yeah.
something even more exciting than I
Yeah,
brought the
yeah,
last
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
it's normal. It's normal that they'll.
So you know what? I'll add an extra 15 seconds in there. Teller's Shadows is my favorite piece of magic ever done by anybody, anytime.
Yeah,
Wow.
Full stop.
It's
And
great.
I'm a picky mother.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's a picky mother beep. Wow, what did he say then? I wonder.
Well, all these things, we can draw inspiration from it.
Thank you, Matt.
Without
Huh?
copying, please.
Oh, well, of course, not copying, but like, you take. Oh wow, what did I feel with that?
Yeah,
Want. How do
nice.
Okay, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want to make someone else feel that. And I
Mhm.
actually had a point. Gonzalo, you were going to bring it back into the main topic. Am I correct?
Yeah. So if you want to do it
All right,
yourself,
yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. I was gonna say there's that because you can take all these inspiration things, but to think about it, Alex said right before he goes to sleep. What I noticed, it's with any non-mental activity. So it's either playing video games. For me, it's walking. I take walks almost every day for about an hour and a half, and I'm just walking around my neighborhood, and my mind is in meditation mode. So,
Yeah,
It's
Gonzalo?
what you're saying is the point that I was going to say exactly to bring it back. It's the mentalism is getting stronger uh, amongst each other because I don't like being, but I think that's personal. I think that will come down to a personal thing. But I don't like sitting down and saying, "Let me be creative." The 3 minutes is something that I'm trying, Sanjeev. We talked about it, I think, last week, and it is something that I'm trying to start. But 3 minutes is a very short period of time. I can't sit down and
Yeah.
say I'm going to be creative for the next hour and a half.
yeah, you can't do an hour session of. I'm gonna be creative.
It's for
Yeah.
me, it's impossible. I just can't. So I've found it's great that you found your peaceful moment, I guess, as well, Matthew. Which for you is walking. For me, it's driving.
Well, it's because I intend
Nice.
to walk, and when I walk, driving too, yeah. When I intend to walk, and that's all I have to do, my mind just naturally goes elsewhere, and on that path, I'm picking up stuff that I find that I think is cool, and then I'm carrying it back all with me and dumping it in my notebook.
It's a nice image. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, right?
But it is.
Yeah.
It's you find these activities. That I think activities was the word you used, Matthew. I have to drive a lot just because between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, that's about a 2-hour drive, and I tend to do it once a week sometimes. So that's
I thought you
4
said-
hours. 4 hours in the car that I get to do per week. So in that time, all that matter. I drive alone, so it's just me, some music, and the road. So I take that time to really just let my mind wander. I keep the eyes on the road. That's important to
Good.
say.
Good. Gonzalo,
But-
Well, I
good.
thought
no,
I thought
but
you were
yeah.
gonna say with it's a 2-hour drive, and I do it in about 45 minutes. I thought you were gonna say that. I was really hoping you weren't. Thank
Please
you.
don't stay safe.
I won't
people.
say that on air.
You're an idiot.
But
He doesn't actually, Alex.
Yeah, I know, but I it's one of those things I'm very careful about. You
Oh
know,
yeah, it's super dangerous.
Just
Don't
given
drive
how
fast.
many people we
Yeah.
lose every year, how many potential future geniuses, actual geniuses, or just like people we lose to that, I just think something. Please drive responsibly, everyone.
it is.
Thank
It's
you.
it's an important. No, it's an important side note, and I mean, I'm just gonna take it for 30
Oh my
seconds.
God.
It's one of the things my dad always told me. It was the stupidest thing you can do is just die in a car crash. Just it's such a
If it's
waste.
your fault.
It's yeah, of course.
Or
But
kill
it's
someone in a
it's such
car
a
crash. It's even
wasteful
stupider.
way to take life away. You know,
Yeah.
it's people are trying to get from point A to point B. That's what it should be about. Do it carefully. Do it responsibly. Ungimmicked with the PSAs.
Such a wholesome show.
Yeah. Wholesome show until you guys target me.
And then it gets even
When do we
better.
do that? We don't do that. What? We don't. No.
Target you?
No.
Target?
Yeah,
What?
What?
Wait, what? Let me check my notes. Sorry.
Okay, let me actually bring it back, people. There's something
Yeah, okay,
we haven't
yeah.
really dwelled on. Is getting inspiration from the world around you. And I'm gonna invoke another genius of magic, Mario Lopez.
Oh my God. Okay. I studied in Spain for a semester. I saw his show. If you get a chance, that was one of the best
Okay,
close-up shows I've
breather
ever seen in
crimp.
my whole
Your
life.
breather crimp segment is now canceled for next time. 'Cause
It
you're
was
just
so
plugging
good.
Things inside the show.
I'll say it again.
You're
I'll
right.
say it every episode.
Okay, so let me dwell on this. He said essentially he just looks around him, the objects that are natural in his office space, and he takes one object that can sound extremely common and analyzes all the features. So let me take an example. Here I have a playing card. Let me try to check all the features of it. So here, it's got a corner missing. Why is the corner missing? Does that make it less of a card? Where did that corner go? Would this card be more of a card with that corner? It's back. It's got a certain size. Why does it have this size? Could it be bigger? Could it be smaller? What lets it becoming this size? The pattern on the back. Here's something that's very symmetrical. Does it cut out perfectly? Does that bring anything to the identity of the card? There's some branding here. How is the branding constructed? Why is it there? Would it be more effective somewhere else? What are the shapes involved? Here we have a circle. Here we have a square. On its face, how are the pips positioned? What is the taint of the colors? If I'm holding it, how am I holding it? If I'm holding it like this, suddenly it looks like a normal card. So once again, all those things I can hold like this, can hold like this. And obviously with playing cards, we're super used as magicians, so I'd encourage you to do this with other things than cards while just taking this basic example. But there is so much to think about out of everything.
And he found all of that before saying Seven of Hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. This card, before being the Seven of Hearts, is a lot more things. It's made out of a certain material. It had a certain elasticity. What point does it fold? Will it break? When would it start tearing apart? The angles aren't perfect. They're rounded. There's a circle angle to that. The margins are the same as the cards we usually see. There's all these features you can go. Like if you look at this closer, this closer, this closer, or that close, if it's like all the way over there, what changes with that card? Now
Interesting.
you take that and you have that discussion with a mug as opposed to a card, and that's what Mario Lopez is. And now every time he touches the mug, the world
Oh.
stops for a second.
No.
Nice. I would just add on and say, yeah, that's incredibly insightful with other objects too, right? That's my 3 minutes. I can't like be creative on command. It's just I'm gonna look around me. Okay, I see a printer. Okay, what can be printed? What if you've made a reverse shredder? Okay, now that's my idea based on the printer. Okay, here's toothpaste. Wow, we always hate wringing the bottom of the toothpaste. What if you could refill it by wringing it? That's weird. I'm gonna write that down. And then you move on, and then
yo,
end up coming up
that
with
is a
things.
Michael Weber had that same question,
Really?
and now has a wonderful piece. He does not share much at all, and he discusses it in an interview in Interpreting Magic by David Regal, which you should read.
Interesting.
This is full of recommendations.
This is a
yeah,
plug
this
episode.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Plug special,
Real quick.
guys.
Real quick. Another question I know one of you brought up is once you get the inspiration, how do you make the most of it? And especially in quarantine, that's something I've struggled with because I come up with a lot of ideas and I'm like, okay, how do I force myself to work on it? And I've made this division, which I think you might find helpful, between fun magic and work magic. Okay? Fun magic is the coming up with new ideas and is the, oh, this is really exciting. Let me see what I can do with this because it's fun, right? It's something we enjoy, that process of designing. And work magic is, here's this idea for my show I came up with a couple weeks ago that I've been putting off because I don't want to actually sit down and do the actual work of planning it out. That's work magic. And a rule that finally helped me broach that productivity barrier of quarantine is no fun magic allowed until I do some work magic, which is like until I sit down and iron out this routine, until I sit down and think about this thing I want to think about, until I sit down and fill this hole in my show. I'm not allowed to say, oh my God, here's this really fun idea I had this morning. What do I do about it?
Passive versus
And
active thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, at
and
some
I
point
hope
you need a
that's
little more
helpful
active.
someone.
You need to write that script. You need to define those moments. And you say, oh, I'll just do that. But until you get it out there explicitly, it's nothing yet. And by the way,
Yeah.
things can transition between those categories. Fun magic can suddenly become work magic magic can become fun magic.
Very true.
Totally.
Very true.
I believe we're wrapping up on this discussion, so I do want to leave with a quote that I know it's not his, but he uses it in his lecture, Rob Zbrecki, and it is, concentration of energy away from oneself is the source of all creativity. And I think that really just kind of wraps up a lot of stuff that we had mentioned. I do see some questioning faces.
Yeah. I think putting all of your energy into oneself can also work. Once again, I'm a mathematician. You have one counterexample to one property or theorem. It's no longer a property or a theorem. But that said, it's a wonderful quote, and I think it holds a lot of truth within it.
Nice. Nice, man. Good stuff, Connor.
Well, gentlemen, I think that is the end of our discussion for today. Of course, our podcast still has a little bit more to offer. But first of all, let me thank you, because this was the first topic the first topic that I brought to the table. I was really interested in hearing what you had to say, because it is one of the things that I've been trying to work and trying to really improve in terms of pulling inspiration. And I hope this is okay that I do this, because I want to leave you with one of the biggest inspiration techniques, I think the only inspiration technique that was ever given to me. And this was Daniel Garcia, one of the greatest trick creators ever,
He makes a
said
lot.
this to me.
Good
Me
stuff.
and Matthew actually tried this together once, and it with impressively great success
Yeah,
for the amount of work that we put into it.
it was
um,
really cool.
Yeah, we did it as a joke, and it turned out a couple of great ideas came out of it.
And then we had a
this
cool
relates, I
act.
think, Sanjeev, you brought it. We did just a concept of it. But Sanjeev, I think you said look at other art forms and see what they have to offer. Well, Daniel Garcia recommended to me that I would walk into a bookstore and just
I like it already.
casually walk by or through the little corridors or the halls of especially the fantasy section, because that's normally the coolest one, and really look not so much at the titles necessarily, but at the pictures that are the covers, the cover art.
Wow.
And see, and he plays this game. You can, of course, play whatever game you want, but the game or the question that he's asking himself is, if this was cover art for a Magic DVD, what would it be? What would be the
Interesting.
content of that DVD? So that's how he's, of course, a trick creator above anything else. That's his process. Me and Matthew applied it to try to create
Oh,
almost a
boy.
show. So it's just, if you change those questions that you're asking when you're looking at the books, I think it can be very valuable. I would definitely recommend giving it a try.
Yeah, we went into that bookstore. I think not less than 15 minutes later, we were on our way to Target.
To buy props.
Yeah, we'll tell you. What those ideas were after the camera stopped rolling. But it was a cool idea.
Well, to finish it off, of course, we have our assembly left, so I'm giving that to Alex Moreau today.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, the assembly is when we recommend something that's non-magical and that's related to the theme. And okay, where'd you draw inspiration? Well, I also draw a lot of inspiration from what I decided to do as work, which is theoretical mathematics. So I do not recommend you all go out and learn theoretical mathematics because that would take too much of your time. Likely, if you're not interested in it, it's not going to be fun. But there's a lot to be drawn from the scientific process. And let me recommend one of my favorite books ever, and it's called Does God Play Dice? And just all the terms in that, just defining God as it's intended for this thing is the most wonderful thing. And it's a book about the new mathematics of chaos. And it will if you're unfamiliar with mathematics, it will ruin your brain on page 2. If you're very very familiar with mathematics, it will ruin your brain on page 10. So it's just taking a step back on the universe and going, wow. Just go onto the very basis, the fundamental understanding of you have of everything. It takes new perspectives. So let me incline everyone to look into very hard science, things there's only a couple of people in the world that know how to do it, and try to see what they have to say, because they usually have the greatest insight on things.
That's awesome.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, man. Thank
I
you.
mean, I'm very quickly got to go over our Instagram. That's @ungimmicked, facebook.com/ungimmicked. You can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on youtube.com/ungimmicked. If you feel so inclined, we are at patreon.com/ungimmicked. UNGIMMICKED. I'm doing it twice an episode now because I can.
10,000
That's the right
subscribers. I
answer.
shaved my head.
We have that recorded.
Matt, you shaved
Matthew.
your head 1,000 times.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. We were joined today by Alex, Connor, Matthew, and Sanjeev. My name is Gonzalo. We will see you on the next episode of Ungimmicked.